what we're talking about is how much does surrogacy cost?
How much does it cost?
When people ask this question, I'm like, how much time do you have?
Information that we wish we knew.
Little tidbits, little facts here and there.
And that's where we get discriminated against. Yay, discrimination.
Really?
What?
Could we possibly get any farther away from each other on this couch?
Yes, we could, but then I wouldn't be in frame.
We are at the max distance from each other to reduce echo from these microphones because our living room just loves to bounce our voice from place to place.
It does.
So we're at the absolute opposite ends of the couch. Could not be farther. I can reach my hand out.
I can barely touch you.
No, I can't. Almost. Oh, there we go. We got it. Yay.
Nice.
Oh. Welcome back to the Who's Your Daddy podcast, where we work to demystify the process of having babies as a gay couple, as an LGBTQ couple, as a queer couple. We're trying to find how to freaking start a family.
Exactly. How do we do that?
I don't know. You tell me. That's what we're here for.
So today, we're going to just address one of the questions that we get probably most often. We had a fun little Q&A last week.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was fun.
We got to do just some questions that were like kind of non-related to surrogacy. But this week, we're tackling the question that we get asked the most often. Like
the absolute most.
And I think it also is a question that has like so many different answers and so many different factors that it's going to take a little bit of time to break it down.
Yeah, I had to do some research.
Like,
yay.
A good amount of research.
Yeah, I was going crazy on the computer today trying to figure out these numbers because it's changing all the time too. And anyway, what we're talking about is how much does surrogacy cost?
How much does it cost? And if you're like looking to do it, what to prepare for, and then also just ways that you can make it fit your budget easier.
I have so many disclaimers for this. One, we're not professionals in this regard. I did research on Google. You know, I've asked people. We've talked to a lot of people on here. I'm getting numbers from them. So this is kind of a collection of numbers and data and averages from different companies, different people we've talked to. So this is in no way representative of any one company or any one person's fertility
that's why it's
journey.
So confusing too.
Right.
I think it's like it's hard. We're going to be giving you like ranges and potentials. I think the most important thing is just going to be like, these are costs that you might incur, but you can avoid incurring them if you wanted to. Right. Some of them you can't, but some of them you can.
We've talked about, independent journey versus going with an agency, and what that could mean financially, emotionally, stability wise, just like throughout the process. So,
but there's tons of other ways to like talk about cost savings. I mean, as far as like egg donation, surrogates, et cetera, et cetera. So
IVF clinic to IVF clinic is going to be different from what they require.
Is that where we're starting?
Surrogacy agency to surrogacy agency is going to be different from what they require. And surrogate to surrogate is going to be different from what they require.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of varying factors here. And that's why it's so difficult to pin down like how much surrogacy actually costs.
Right.
When people ask this question, I'm like, how much time do you have? you know?
Exactly.
Like, where do you want me to start?
Yeah,
because it's not an easy answer.
No.
Just to give you like a reference, I have 3 pages of numbers, just like a list, just a listicle of numbers. And this is in size 12 font. And
I'm going to try and simplify it.
Right. But like it's a list. It's a list, and every single line item can be different. And that's why it's so hard to be like, how much does it cost? Even trying to provide a range, I'm like, maybe, it's hard. And who's to say that next year it's going to be if it's going to be completely different.
What did you prepare for like coming into this process? Spending
wise, man, I was looking at things with rose-colored glasses. I thought it was going to be a cakewalk in the park.
You did not.
Well, I thought if we walked around a park and we found somebody who had babies, we could be like, hey, do you want to have more babies?
Do you want to have more babies?
Okay.
You still got a uterus in there?
Yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. But you remember like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we were walking in the park and people were walking by with strollers and it was just like woman after woman was walking by with a stroller. And I'm just like, dear God, if I had just stayed in this park for like
with a sign, like a lemonade
staked
stand.
out for like a week. Yeah, with like a lemonade stand, holding a sign being like, do you want to have my baby?
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd find somebody.
I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think it'd be anybody that you'd want, but
And
I'm sure you'd find someone.
And I'm being facetious. I don't think anyone actually would take me up on the offer of having my baby holding a sign in a park.
No.
But you see a lot of people walking their kids in parks.
No, I know.
And you're like, you had 3-4 kids? Maybe you'd want another one. You look like you're in the right age range.
Not would you want another one, but would you like to be pregnant again but not have to take care of it? Like, doesn't that sound like such a great deal?
I don't know. All right. So I was looking at maybe spending between $120,000 to $150,000 to $160,000 tops.
And I think
total from beginning to end.
And I think I knew that it was going to be between 140 and 180.
That's yep. And we had a disconnect there. And I remember several conversations that we had. And you're like, I think it's going to be more. And I'm like,
I also think that there were people who told us like, oh, this is what it costs if you're lucky. But I think you were also determined to like find
lucky
cost savings and be like, no, I can do this for less. Not so much that you didn't hear those numbers and they didn't register, but also I think you were just like, I'll find a way to make it more affordable.
I almost took it as a challenge. Yeah. Because I've always questioned, like, why does it cost so much? Like, what really do you need in order to complete the process? Because there's a lot of different parties involved. And sometimes, you hear a lot of people don't need all of those parties involved. And there might be ways to save costs, save money there.
So first of all, I think when you're looking to do this process, I think we've said this before, is like just start with your IVF clinic. Like just start by finding an IVF clinic and just get their input, get their advice.
Get a great doctor.
Get their they'll help you with like kind of the layout of like how things kind of go. After talking with a lawyer, I think second would be good to maybe bring in a lawyer and just get them on your team. And so I think those are kind of like maybe the two first things that you do. And then you decide if you're going to go independent or if you're going to go with an agency. Yeah. So I would say IVF clinics, it's going to vary state by state, but they're not going to vary a ton. There are some cost savings though, I think that you can have when you're looking at the IVF clinic.
And this opinion that you're sharing with like starting with an IVF clinic and or a lawyer is different from what we like started this podcast as.
It's different than what we did.
It's different
than what we did. Yeah.
And then even when starting this podcast, I don't know if we would have said exactly the same order or the same things, but like we just haven't had a great experience with agencies in general.
Right.
So it's been hard to kind of like go that route and try to figure out how we can navigate surrogacy.
I think my initial thought was get an agency, get an IVF clinic. I think now my thought process is get an IVF clinic, get a lawyer, and then see how far those two, things can take you along in this journey, which I think is a decently far way. But as far as the IVF clinic goes, where you can find a little bit of cost savings, depending on your situation, is if you know someone willing to donate their eggs for you. Because we incurred a match fee for egg donation.
Yep.
Right? Which was about $8,000. So if you go with an like an egg donor agency, an egg donor like online thing, you are going to have to pay them for finding these egg donors.
That's what you're paying an agency for egg donation, is to find you a match for an egg donor. That's literally what the fee's for, like the processing of it, the going out and scouting out these people, finding them, interviewing them, going through kind of like this preliminary process with them.
Well, and you can find egg donors from IVF clinics. You can find them on like egg donation specific sites, and you can find them through agencies. Each one of them is going to have a different match fee. I don't even know what the IVF clinic match fee would be. Like I don't know what ours is. Mm-mm. I just know that if you have the stars align and you know someone who's willing to donate their eggs, you don't have to pay a match fee, right? So then there's a huge cost savings there because nobody's maintaining the website, the whatever, to like show you these egg donors.
Right.
And then depending on what they want to be compensated or if they don't want to be compensated, we know egg donors that just did it out of the goodness of their heart. That would be an $18,000 savings if we had done that, you know? So that's probably the biggest cost savings, I think, when you're looking at IVF.
And I mean, like, what a big, that's just, that takes a certain type of person. Really incredible to do something like that for someone.
We know
without
people.
Compensation. I know we know people.
Yeah. So it's not impossible. I think sometimes...
I'm dumbfounded though, because it's a lot to do.
No, it's great.
It's a lot to take on.
It's great. I mean, I think some people have a very hard line on how this process is supposed to go. And they think, every step needs some sort of compensation, some sort of this, some sort of that, which could be true. And like, if that's you, that's fine. But I think if somebody wants to do it out of the goodness of their heart, I think that's just as legitimate.
Yeah,
and like,
definitely.
I don't think that should be like looked down upon or anything. I think some people might take that in a weird way. Somebody being very like altruistic like that.
Yeah. But, no, I just think like I'm like, would I do that? Man, that would take a lot because it's injections, No,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our first two, fees as far as like egg donation. So if we start with the IVF clinic, let's just start there.
Okay. So we're not starting with, okay, I see what you're doing.
So the egg donor match fee, we talked about that a little bit, so that can be anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000, depending on who you go through.
Typically, it's going to be more if you're an international couple, not from the U.S. So outside of the U.S., there's going to be an additional fee: $500, $1,000, $1,500.
Then egg donor compensation, that was the other thing. So 8 to 12, just depending on where you go. Honestly, there are some clinics that are like have people that are donating quote unquote for like $30,000 or $40,000, which is like wild. So I would not go there if you're looking for cost savings.
And if you get an experienced egg donor, someone who's done it before, then it's typically $1,000 additional. They'll upcharge for each round that they go for.
Mm-hmm. When you enter into an agreement with your egg donor, you find an egg donor. Obviously, there has to be some sort of contract involved. You're paying for a lawyer to review your contract. On your side, you're paying for a separate lawyer to review their contract. Could be anywhere from $900 to $1,800. Then you have the clinic cycle coordination.
I feel like you're just listing these and you don't really know.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you just sit here and you read off like a million zillion numbers, I don't think anybody's going to care.
I'm sorry. I need to work on how I give feedback.
Take it away.
I love you. No. I also want to try to like add these numbers up as we go because I didn't do totals.
Take it away, Matthew.
Okay. So you talked about the egg donor match fee, egg donor compensation, contract review. You also have to open an escrow account in order to pay the egg donor and to like pay for expenses and whatnot. Just to open the escrow account, because you're paying the company that holds the account, is like about $1,500. There are a lot of fees associated with the IVF clinic itself. You have to pay for the coordination of this whole process through the IVF clinic. That could be anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000. Then who's
coordinating
the IVF clinic with the egg donor.
Oh, so you're just paying
like
them.
This is just a fee. Like this is how the IVF clinic makes their money. It's like your base payment, And then you have the medical screenings, the psych eval, the processing of that through the IVF clinic. That's going to be $5,000 to $6,000. That's for the egg donor specifically, like the psych eval, medical screening of the psych. Okay, just making sure you were following.
Oh, I'm
100%. You got it.
Here.
Okay. Another charge is the IVF clinic base cycle fee. That's from $9,000 to $12,000 on average. That is just the fee that they charge like for the whole cycle. Another way that they make money. They have an administration fee and then they have like the whole scientific side, like cycle fee.
The doctor side
of it. That's that $9,000 to $12,000. Then we move on to the fun part: sperm donation, screening, and DNA testing. That's where we come in. What's this part like, Michael? I'll just say overall, it's about 6,000 to 6,500. If you add these expenses together from like our part of it, our medical screenings, our sperm collection, we can do genetic screening, which is another optional thing that you can save money on. That can go from $200 to $300.
I would not recommend to save money there though.
Right, yeah, because that's going to test for things that could be passed on, and it's very important to do that, because then you know if you are an actual good genetic match with your egg donor, or if you have a high likelihood of putting on like a fatal genetic disease, or it's just not going to like produce offspring. You know, there's a lot of genetic diseases that can be passed down that just end in miscarriage or termination of the baby before it's even born. Let's see. Oh, split insemination. If you're like us, a gay couple, and you're looking to do one of each, if you want to both be a father and have your own genetic tie to a child, then there's an additional fee for split insemination of the embryos. So that can be $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, anywhere around there.
Then you can factor in whether or not you need to travel to this IVF clinic. Again, I would suggest staying local so that you can minimize those. Also, if your egg donor has to travel to said IVF clinic, again, if you can find a local egg donor, that's best. Obviously, if they're like a friend from your hometown that's halfway across the country, you're going to have to be paying for them to go for screenings and egg donation and all that. So
yeah, that's
just
true.
Things to think about and consider.
I'll say the travel expenses that I'm estimating like overall as an average could go from $1,000 if you're not traveling too far to $3,500 if you're traveling possibly internationally.
Oh my God. I
Maybe
do not
more.
understand how international couples do this.
That was a modest estimate, but
I'm like stressed out enough and it's in the same country. Like, I can't even imagine.
Egg donor hormone medications. So this is when the egg donor actually starts to prepare for egg donation. They take a lot of medications beforehand, a lot of injections. This is a hefty fee. It can be as low as $1,000, but it can be as high as $10,000. I think what we paid was anywhere between $5,000 and $6,000 on the medications themselves.
This is where sometimes insurance can come into play and help. I know when we had Adam and T on talking about insurance, I believe this was one of the things that they got Blue Cross Blue Shield to agree to pay.
Oh,
in that
yeah.
like 20, I think it was like 20,000 like total.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think it was partly medications and then partly their sperm donation, screening, that sort of thing.
Right.
So again, if you have a good health insurance, or you read your policy really well, or you find a policy in open enrollment that would help cover some of these costs, that can be a huge, I think they saved $20,000 that way.
Yeah.
So just a thought, again, information that we wish we knew.
Little tidbits, little facts here and there. That's helpful.
Yeah. I feel like everybody was like, oh, let us know if you want to talk about surrogacy, we'd love to talk about our experience, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I can read all this stuff. I'm talking to blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't need anybody's help.
Handled.
Girl, no.
Do you have it handled?
No.
I don't think so. I don't either. I don't know what's going on.
I would say, okay, so
here.
what's our like total cost for just IVF stuff?
Well, okay. Let me just add in a couple more things.
Just say them.
Yeah, I will.
You don't need numbers.
Egg donor, lost wages, childcare, and travel. Okay.
Anything. It could be so variable.
It could be. IVF clinic, PGTA, embryo biopsy, and testing.
We did that.
Yeah.
Also very worth it.
Yes.
I would not skip that part.
That checks to see if your embryos are actually viable or not.
If they
like
have chromosomally normal.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which Matthew found out 2 of his were not. So then if you end up...
Yeah, if you try to transfer those, it doesn't.
If you try and transfer that, it's immediately going to fail.
A ton of money and a lot of heartache. So, anyway,
absolutely
totally worth it.
That.
$1,000 to $3,000 for that. It can cost more if you are testing for more embryos. Of course, the more embryos you test, the more it costs.
Oh yeah, it was like what 1 to 6, and then like 6.
Yeah.
I
think usually IVF clinics have it staged.
But it's
into...
not a huge difference, I don't think, between
There's
1 to 5 and 5 to 10.
Yeah, it's like between $1,000 and $3,000.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then specimen storage. That can be around $750 on average per specimen per year. That's kind of one of those additional things that you don't typically factor into the initial costs of IVF, but it's something that you need to consider, because if it takes you a long time to find your gestational carrier, you're going to be paying $750 per specimen per year to store those things. Just something to consider.
Do you mean sperm specimen?
Sperm specimens and embryo specimens.
Yeah.
A lot of IVF clinics will hold your specimens for up to a year, and then they will require a fee in order to continue holding them. Otherwise, they get discarded or donated.
Right.
So, altogether, I think the IVF portion of this, if you look at just the IVF clinic itself, you're going to be looking at $35,000 to $45,000. And then you need to add on the compensation of your egg donor and the incurred expenses from that egg donor, such as like travel, etc.
Yeah, or a match fee or whatever. If you're finding an egg donor through some type of service,
right? Through an egg donor agency. So if you add all of that on top of it, then you're looking at $55,000, $60,000, $70,000, anywhere around there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I in my head was like, oh, IVF is like $40,000, but it's more than that.
Yeah,
it can be.
It can be more than that, and I think once you add up the expenses and actually like bucket in, what you're paying the egg donor, all of the incurred expenses on top of that, your travel expenses, the lost wages, etc., then it really adds up to a lot more than what typical estimates will show you.
Yeah, but again, huge saving. Like obviously, it can be up to 70, whatever. But again, if you know somebody who will do it,
you save so much money.
You save a match fee. You potentially save on compensation depending on what, they're willing to do. And then if you, what was the other thing? Match fee, and insurance. And if you can somehow figure out if you have good insurance or find an insurance during open enrollment, like when you're looking to do this, that will cover you. Obviously, if you're a straight couple, this isn't as big of a deal. Like I've heard that straight couples have difficulty getting IVF coverage as well, which kind of surprises me. But because I feel like it's kind of like
right.
I feel like it's kind of maybe it's just because the plan literally doesn't cover it at all.
Yeah.
But I think like the written plans that include it have a relatively simple clause, which is like 12 months unprotected sex without conceiving. Like I think that's pretty normal on plans that do cover it. So anyways, find a plan that covers it and see if they'll cover it for a gay couple, because that's where it gets complicated, and that's where we get discriminated against. Yay, discrimination.
Really?
What?
Yay, discrimination. We're going there now. I didn't
Hooray!
know. Wow. Who am I sitting on this couch with? This is just, I don't like this.
Okay, so we did IVF clinic. We'll get into like lawyer stuff later.
Yeah, I think after you have all this IVF clinic stuff and your embryos, whatnot, you're going to start to look for a gestational carrier, a surrogate.
Right. And so then you're deciding whether or not
to go with an agency.
Somebody goes and searches for you, you search yourself, or you do a combination of both.
Yep. So if you do go with an agency, overall, the price of that for everything that they do, as far as coordination, finding you a gestational carrier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it's going to be from $25,000 to $50,000 on average. I know that's a really big swing, but I feel like that's literally the market.
No, and it depends on what state you're in, because we've talked to some people whose agency fees were like really high, but that's because they were in California. Yeah, and then we talked to other people where the agency fees were much lower, but they were just in a different state that didn't have quite as high of like income probably as California, or the high cost of living as California.
And because there's no regulation in the industry, literally anyone could become a surrogacy agency. I could open up my laptop, put up a surrogacy website right now and say, hire me as your surrogacy agent and pay me $75,000. Yeah. And as far as the law goes, that's okay.
There's not laws around, I don't think, regulating the agency as much as there is.
I do wish there was some kind of certification or something to be like, oh, this is noteworthy, or you actually have this skill, or something that's behind it other than like here's my website.
Wait, did you give the range?
25 to 50,000.
Yeah. That's a big swing, and that is, again, obviously they're gonna be helpful, or at least they should be. And they should they should help save you time. Essentially, that's what you're paying for.
If you're paying $50,000 for an agency, they should be contacting you all the time.
They should be contacting you all the freaking time. Yeah.
They should be your best friend.
And they should have a big, long list of proven surrogates for you, like ready immediately. To go. That's just a lot of money.
That's a lot of money to pay someone for a match.
Yeah, man.
And I know they do a lot of other things, but that's essentially when it comes down to it.
But some people, like, they're busy. They are financially well off, and
they can
fine.
Do it.
And they like, time is money to them, and so.
And that would be super helpful.
Yeah.
To have that kind of help.
Yeah, and if you can just sort of like be hands off on a lot of this stuff that is just very time consuming, maybe it's worth it. But
maybe it's worth it.
Maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's not.
I feel like you have such maybe it's worth it.
I don't know.
The way you say that.
Up to you.
As he picks his nails like a sass, just a sassy sass.
Cool. So I think that's, again, a huge swing in fees, but also something that you can potentially save on if you want to just take some extra time to devote to the process and do it independently.
Lots of extra time.
What's next on the list?
Yeah, so once you've decided whether you're going to go with a surrogacy agency or go independent, and if you find somebody that looks like a good match, somebody that you're like, okay, I want to continue, this is looking good, the surrogate psych evaluation is going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,700, maybe $2,000 if it's really expensive. Then you have the surrogate attorney fees. Attorney fees add up to a lot.
Attorney fees can be a lot.
They can be. And that's because you're not only paying for an attorney for yourself, but you're also paying for an attorney to represent the surrogate and their partner.
It's just like having double everything. Yeah. It's like having twins, just going through this process, because you're like, oh,
you gotta account
do it for me and them, and me and them.
Yep. So that's going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500. Then you're going to pay for the contract review of your own lawyer. That's going to be $3,500 to $10,000 for an attorney representing you.
Man,
I know it's a big swing.
That's a big swing.
Again, differs state by state, company by company. You're going to have really expensive lawyers. You're going to have really affordable lawyers. So, ask around. I've heard of a few good ones in Portland. So I'm like, again, looking at it optimistically, like maybe we'll find a bargain.
Wow, maybe. I don't know. I know all this stuff is like, you could save money. Some of the stuff that you can't avoid, you're just like trying to save money, and then you're like, ugh, is this even worth saving money on? Am I going to get somebody who knows what they're doing?
Right. I think typically how we've pursued through this process is look at everything optimistically, think that we're going to find a bargain, hope for the best, and then get unpleasantly surprised and be like, oh shit, we didn't save for that.
Just putting on our rose-colored glasses and then just getting kicked to the dirt.
Dancing into the doom.
Oh my God.
Oh, side note, I've caught myself explaining this process to people lately as like, because so many people were asking in Puerto Rico and New York, and I was like, how do I describe this in the shortest way possible? And I describe it like it feels a little bit like just hope building up and up and up and up, and you're just feeling like positive and optimistic and hopeful, and then everything crashes down in a moment, and then you build yourself back up again, hope, and then it crashes down again, and you just keep on that cycle. And that's what it feels like right now with surrogacy.
It's like renovating a house without any prior knowledge of how to renovate a house. You're like, I'm gonna learn this, and then you find mold, and then you're like, wow, this is gonna be expensive,
and then you have to rip everything up,
and then you rip everything up, and then you're feeling good, and then you find something else wrong with the electrical, and then you're going back to square one, and you're spending all this money again.
Or like building a house of cards, you're building it up and up and up, and you think you're getting there, and then it all crumbles, and then you have to start over again. But that's what it kind of is. You just keep
Yeah.
on that because there's so many steps, so many hoops to jump through, and you have to go through all of these stages successfully before you get to the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like you're going the right way. It looks like everything's working out, and then one thing doesn't work, and then you start over. So that's what it feels like. Anyway. Tangent.
That was a
on
very
that.
nice aside. Thank you.
I know.
For that.
I really like that kind of comparison, I guess, because I was having trouble figuring out how to explain it to people in a little snippet without getting into the details of everything. Yeah. So psych eval, attorney fees, contract review, legal fees. Oh yes, to establish the pre-birth order, the post-birth order.
Well, it'd be a pre-birth order.
Pre-birth order. Sure.
I don't think there's a post-birth order.
I don't know.
I think that's just called an adoption at that point.
Okay.
So it's like a pre-birth order is essentially just like a judge of your county or state that says the child that is going to be born by this gestational carrier is legally like these people's child. It's not that person's child. It's these people's child. And so even though they're the ones giving birth to the child, they are not the ones that are going to parent the child, and they have no legal rights. That's something that you can get in some states, not all states. But that is just a bureaucratic process that you pay money for people to draft it and review it and approve it. So that's like a pre-birth order. The idea is that avoids having to do a second parent adoption after the birth, where if we're a gay couple, only one of the us can be biologically related to that child as a straight or as a male couple. So anyways.
Yeah, no, that's good. This is more in your court anyway for this whole legal stuff.
Oh.
You've done more research in this area.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Additional to that, you have a surrogate pleadings lawyer. This is for legal review regarding the birth order establishing parental rights. So they need like a legal representative for the pleading of that court appearance, whatever. To kind of
and I don't even know how that process like fully works. Like we have to present in court. That's like so bizarre.
I don't know.
Why can't it just be handled like?
We're getting there. We need to interview a lawyer for this.
Yeah.
But
this is why I think it would be good. I mean, this is why it's like get an IVF clinic, make sure that you can even make embryos. Then after you get embryos, get a lawyer, because somebody who's gone through this process is going to be able to walk you through it a lot more, and then give you a little bit more of like the real life, the real life
actually looks like
the real of like what's next, what do you do, like what do you need to think about legally, depending on what state you live in, etc.
So let's say all the pre-birth orders they've gone through, everything's good. You still have to get birth documents in addition to the pre-birth order, which is about $1,000 on average. And that is so you can notify the hospital that you have the birth documents, this pre-birth order, and that you are able to make medical decisions on your baby.
Okay.
Or on your preborn baby. You know,
wow, yeah,
it's messy. It's kind of an interesting area and kind of gray area where I don't know a lot about either. Another good place that I would love to talk to a lawyer about.
Yeah, that's one of our goals.
But I do know that there's that additional fee, and some surrogacy agencies include a legal clearance bonus for the surrogate. And the reason that you have a lot of these additional fees that go to the surrogate is it's enticing. It's to entice people to sign up with the surrogacy agency so that they can join their roster. It makes sense because like you have a lot of surrogacy agencies out there. It's a little bit of competition to figure out like, well, where can you go to make more money? Am I going to sign up with this agency that is pretty bare bones and doesn't offer a lot of benefits, or I'm going to go with this surrogacy agency that has a ton of benefits? I'm going to get paid a lot more. So the legal clearance bonus I've been finding can be $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, you know, just a big chunk of change that gets paid to the surrogate for going through the process up until that point.
Yeah, it sounds like it's also like a investment of their time.
Yes,
that
definitely.
They're getting compensated for, probably a little gratuitously. But if you were like to break down the hours of time versus that compensation, like,
but it is that like energy and emotional stress and just everything going up until that point. Another thing that's not required or needed necessarily, but something that some agencies do. All right. So that all together can be anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 total for legal itself.
Oh, legal for
Just
itself.
the legal
Got it.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Insurances. Tell me, Michael.
Insurances.
What do you know about the insurances?
I know that I don't think any of them are very straightforward when it comes to same-sex couples, and they don't really understand what the rules are unless the rules are very clearly like not covered and you have to pay us for anything that we incur. So, after you find a surrogate, you have to look at their insurance and what it currently looks like. And then you have to figure out if you need a different insurance, a better insurance, or a second insurance. So that can be $1,000 professional insurance review. You literally hire somebody to look through their plan, insurance. See if it's surrogate friendly, if it has a surrogacy rider. If it doesn't, figure out if there's some problem with that insurance where they would have to completely get off of it and get on a new insurance. Or if they don't want to do that, see if you can add a secondary insurance. So the best case scenario is that they have a surrogate friendly insurance and you just end up paying their monthly premiums and their copays and deductibles, etc.
No. If they have surrogacy friendly insurance, you only pay their deductibles and copays.
Not their premiums?
They already have insurance.
No, I know, but they're paying an insurance premium monthly.
They're already paying for it for their own health care.
No, I know, but I think that
you're not paying for their premiums.
But you're paying for their premiums if you buy health insurance.
If you buy health insurance for them, you are paying for premiums. If they have surrogacy friendly insurance already, you don't pay their premiums.
Maybe.
Because it's just their health insurance. It's just a bonus. It's like, yay. Don't you get it? No?
Maybe.
You disagree.
I think that it could go either way. I think they could say, I'm
rule
pregnant.
against it.
I'm pregnant. You're going to pay the health insurance premiums
for this health insurance that I already had?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think from my research, most surrogacy agencies don't require you to pay the premiums of a health insurance plan that somebody already has.
Okay. But that'd be great.
If you have to purchase a additional plan for that person because they don't have a surrogacy rider or surrogacy friendly insurance, then you have to pay the premiums, of course.
Huh.
Yeah. So I think that's why the insurance cost can be as low as $5,000 or $5,500 because you're only paying the copays and deductibles for the medical treatments that they're getting that are surrogacy related. But if they don't have surrogacy friendly insurance, which
your
most
thing
people
says
don't,
copays, deductibles, premiums.
I typed this up fast. I was seeing specifically copays and deductibles online.
Oh, okay.
But again, I don't think there's a specific rule to it, so it could go either way.
Yeah.
What if you find a surrogate and they're like, no, absolutely, you're paying my premiums for my health insurance throughout the year,
which could be like $400 to $800 a month.
Yeah. So it adds up a little bit.
Yeah. But not $30,000 worth.
No.
Which some of these secondary ones, if you have to purchase them.
Correct. So let's get into that.
Huge deductibles.
If you apply for a secondary insurance plan through the open marketplace.
No, just the marketplace.
Whatever.
The healthcare marketplace.
The healthcare marketplace. That can be $15,000 to $20,000. Are you good? Okay. You're doing a lot of body things over there.
I'm tired today.
We're talking through numbers. I'm sorry.
Again, yeah, true. And it's like math, so I'm going to sleep. Yeah. Hopefully nobody's falling asleep in their car right now.
I mean, this is what's so hard is it's there's so much info and it's kind of boring to learn about. It's who wants to listen to all this?
But you all asked, so now you're getting it.
So here we are. Oh, yeah. All right. So Obamacare policy, if you do it through the marketplace, $15,000 to $20,000 typically. And then if it's outside of the marketplace, so not within the time frame of November 1st to January 15th on average, that's when marketplace is open.
Thanks, America.
If it's outside of it and you're signing up for insurance any other time of the year, then it could be $28,000 to $35,000. That's a lot of freaking money.
That's the range that I don't like.
Yeah.
5 to 35. I'm like, whoa.
Right? Scary.
Yeah.
And then additional to that medical insurance, you're also going to pay for a life insurance policy for your gestational carrier. Typically $500 to $1,000. And then you have the option of getting surrogate disability insurance. This is if your gestational carrier is going on bed rest or like physician ordered bed rest, or is having difficulty working while being pregnant, leading up to the birth, weeks after the birth, possibly had a cesarean section, needs time to heal. That can be anywhere from $1,000 to $6,500. Sometimes gestational carriers will already have a disability insurance through their workplace, so you can save there. Other times they just don't, so you can pay for this insurance yourself, but you don't have to. And if nothing bad happens and they don't go on bed rest, then you just save that money. But if they do go on bed rest, then you most definitely will be paying for lost wages.
Yes. I was trying to think if they're in Oregon, they have like paid family leave. I don't know if that would be covered under it or not.
I don't think that covers it.
Oh, yeah. But it would cover it afterwards.
Right. I think this one has to be disability.
I was going to say, I think this one is not covered with that.
Like you have disability insurance through you pay for
I pay for my disability insurance because my hands are worth a lot of money.
for dentistry. Yes.
Yeah. That's something always fun coming out of school.
But I think like when I was working at the hospital, I had disability insurance.
Well, yeah, usually your employer will provide some.
Okay.
But like from my perspective, they don't usually provide the right amount that I would need.
It's a great question to ask a potential surrogate, to ask like, hey, what's your career? Where do you work? Or what do you do for work? And does your employer provide disability insurance?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Because I think that's something that we'll opt to get depending on like our gestational carrier's career, job.
Right.
You know.
Okay, next, IVF transfer. So you found your clinic, you made your embryos, you found your surrogate, you've gone through all the legal, you've signed contracts, you've figured out compensation, and you've determined...
We haven't gotten to compensation yet.
Just
correction. But yes.
We haven't gotten
in the timeline of things.
In the timeline of things, then you're going to think about the IVF transfer. So gestational carrier services are going to be around $4,500.
That's from the
average.
IVF clinic itself. That's just the fee that you pay the IVF clinic to handle.
I think we already didn't we already like pay that though?
Yeah, usually these
like lump
we're
sum.
breaking down these fees, but typically these are just
lump sum
together in one big payment.
There's an embryo transfer cycle fee, somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. There's a IVF transfer medications that you have to purchase, similar to your egg donor
just like
medications.
Yeah, but this is a lot less money typically.
It's a lot less. It's essentially like, isn't it like tricking their body that they're pregnant already, kind of?
Yes.
And then it's like, then like all this blood flow goes to the uterus. Anyways, makes things more sticky for when they make the embryo transfer.
Hearing you explain
I don't know.
This is great. No, tell me more about pregnancy, Michael.
Yeah, I think that's how they described it.
Makes your uterus sticky.
It makes you have a stinky uterus. Sticky.
I'm appalled.
Sometimes you have a bonus for your surrogate starting the medications because pain and suffering. Usually under 1,000.
Hormones aren't fun.
And then the transfer bonus. So like on the day of, it's a procedure. It's a lot.
Yeah, you go in for the procedure.
It's not necessarily super comfortable. So
this could include things like lost wages, childcare, and all that. But
as like a lump sum fee.
A lump sum, but it can also be in addition to, depending on your surrogacy agency and what the terms are. So like it could be $1,500 on average as just like a lump sum plus your travel expenses, or it could be $1,500 plus the travel expenses. Just depends.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all of that.
And now we get to one of the biggest, probably swings in fee. One of them, which would be the surrogate compensation.
Yes.
Ba-ba-bum.
Okay, so this is a big area of interest.
Take it away, Matthew.
I don't know if I can take anything away. Like, compensation has changed so much over the last 3 years, 5 years. And yeah, I don't know. We know that from a lot of people that we've interviewed who have gone through agencies, who have gone through IVF clinics, or who have found their own gestational carrier, paying anywhere from $25,000 to 50,000, 60,000, more than that. But now the average through surrogacy agencies is typically listed from $45,000 to $55,000. And that's interesting because that's not what I've been hearing from a lot of the people that we interview.
And I think because partially some of the people that we've interviewed did it, they have 6, 7, 8-year-old children.
Well, yes. I'm not talking about them.
No, right. But I mean, I think that is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We also, I mean, we've talked to people who did it 3 or 4 years ago, and they were like, yeah, it seems really different now.
Totally.
So,
I mean,
anyways.
we're talking like compensation doubling within like a short period of time, possibly.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because there's just more agencies and like
more demand.
Like you were saying, they're just, I don't know. Yeah, advertising and trying to figure out how to find surrogates.
I
or
think a lot
what.
of multiple things can be true.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot more demand than there was. I think there are probably a lot more agencies out there. And I think that it can be a challenge to find enough gestational carriers to present to intended parents from these agencies. So in order to survive, the agencies would need to increase their benefits and compensation to their gestational carriers in order to entice people to come on their lists.
I don't know this as a fact, but I also think that in part of my research in the past on insurance coverage is that more states are like requiring it, I think. So I think it's being looped into more plans.
Insurance coverage?
Insurance coverage for IVF, specifically for straight couples.
Oh.
It's like slow, but it's happening more, I think. And I'm wondering if like, they get to defer those fees to insurance, technically frees up more.
Oh.
So maybe more people are doing IVF who have insurance coverage, and this is like the straight couples who are having trouble conceiving and looking at that as an option. And I don't know. Maybe it's more prevalent. That is totally guessing. That's guessing.
Yeah.
But I'm just
we're both guessing.
Yeah, we're both guessing on that.
But the numbers I'm finding through surrogacy agencies is $45,000 to $55,000 on average for base comp.
We also know my cousin, had a friend offer to be a gestational carrier for no compensation. If you do it in Canada, they're not allowed.
It's altruistic only.
It's altruistic. So again, if you know someone, if you are lucky enough where somebody's offering for something less than the average of 45 to 55, also could be very, very helpful cost savings.
And I'm saying that's the average for surrogacy agency based process. Like, this is not the average for people outside of agencies.
We also know that it can be lower or it can be much higher.
Right. Yeah.
There are people that are in the 6 figures.
We have had,
and that is a lot.
Potential surrogates quote us over $100,000, and we have had potential surrogates offer doing it for only $20,000, which is like, wow. But like, I know. Yeah, there's a lot of factors to make a match.
I think everybody also, people that are in this space, I think look at you weird if you're below this average, and they like, I don't know. I feel like they judge you if you're like below this like $50,000 average, and they're like, I don't know, it's pretty low. And then
so now we're shaming people with lower income.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, that's what I feel like. And then I think people will get this weird feeling about it, and it's
so you
like,
don't care about women.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like
trying to use people.
Oh my God. Okay, I get it. If I won the Powerball, like they can have as much money as they want, but I don't know. Like I'm trying to do this process.
Fair point. Yeah.
I don't know. There are some people who can do that, and surrogates, if you want to be a surrogate and you want to get paid that, then just say no if they can't offer that. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing.
People
on
get weird
Facebook
about it
recently.
Yeah, I'm
I've
just
been
like,
searching.
if you want $60,000 or $70,000, we can't afford you.
It's
Sorry,
one of the first
it's fine.
questions I ask. I'm like, what are you thinking compensation wise? Just because like I don't want to waste either of our time if we can't afford you, you know? And it's totally fair to ask what you want and what you need for compensation, and that's fine, but I think it's also fair to know what you can afford yourself and not like overextend beyond your bounds. Like I don't want to set our future family up in a situation where we're struggling financially because we overextended ourselves through compensation and through all of these other expenses.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I
So
think
I'm
that
like thinking about in the future, like when I have kids, I need to be able to afford the things in order to raise my child.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think if you ask any straight couple, like, hey, before your kid even got here, if it cost $50,000, what would you do? Like, if it cost you $50,000 to go from just like conception to birth at the hospital, and then you incurred all the other fees of having a child, like, would you do it? I feel like there'd be so many straight couples that'd be like, hell to the no. We do not have that in our bank account, but we're expected to have that in our bank account, I think. And I don't know if it's true.
I don't think we're expected to, but maybe it feels that way.
It feels like this cloud above that, like, if you can't adequately compensate or whatever based on what I think you should, then it's like a problem.
And just to add, experienced surrogates can also charge more. Typically, they'll charge $10,000 more per cycle, 5,000, 10,000, anywhere around there. And a multiples fee, if you put more than one embryo into a gestational carrier, say you're trying for twins, you're going to pay $5,000 to $10,000 per multiple.
Yes, which I think is fair. I mean,
Totally.
if you've done surrogacy before and it's been successful and you haven't had issues, the peace of mind and paying a little bit more, I think, is justifiable. And then obviously, if you're growing more than one human, that needs to have a higher compensation.
It's more stress on the body
than just one.
There's more risk.
You know what I mean?
It's
Yeah,
difficult.
Yeah.
Yep. I get
That totally understandable. The just general base compensation, I think, conversation is just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm extrapolating it more than it needs to.
Maybe I have no judgment on this. Like, I think things are the way they are for a reason, and we have our perspective on it based off of like what we've just experienced and finances and all that. So I think I think both are fair, you know? It's okay that it's this way, but it's also okay if we can't afford it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next part.
I'm a Libra. I like both sides. Oh, that's what it means. You know, like everybody wins.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Also, it's my birthday this week. So
Literally tomorrow.
It is. Yay.
Or yesterday once you start listening to this podcast.
I love talking about this on my birthday week. Just great.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to me.
Okay, incidentals and benefits. So typically there's going to be some type of like benefits package if
you go through an agency.
You go through an agency, and then again it's your base compensation plus all these benefits.
Everything from here on out, these are basically optional things. If you're going independent, and with a lot of surrogacy agencies, these are just going to be automatically included as far as like you need to add these on. You have to do it, required.
Yeah.
So a monthly allowance, this is typical. Even on independent journeys, you're going to be probably giving some kind of monthly allowance in order to pay for incidentals. This can range from anywhere from $250 a month to $500 a month. I think the averages I see are anywhere from $300 to $400.
Obviously, you've got travel expenses. So if they're driving to and from the hospital, to and from the clinic, flying, et cetera, you're going to be paying them, mileage, lost wages, childcare. That stuff is pretty standard, I think, as well.
Also, for the IVF screening, so here's another thing to consider. Your potential surrogate not only needs to go to the IVF clinic for the transfer itself, they also have to go for a physical screening. So going in for that, you also need to consider that you're paying lost wages, childcare, meals, transport, accommodation for all of that, which could be anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 if your IVF clinic is out of state or if your gestational carrier is far away from IVF clinic.
One of them that I didn't think about that is kind of funny is housekeeping that you wrote down.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I mean, I suppose if I'm pregnant, I don't want to be putting my dishes away all the way on the top shelf and cleaning everything and bending over and picking up heavy things. I don't know. I guess it makes sense.
Yes. Maybe it's lesser, not super common on all the surrogacy agencies, but it definitely shows up on some.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be anywhere from $300 to $500 a month.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Through the duration of pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So your monthly allowance.
From I think after a few months, the first trimester, that starts.
Got it.
Because,
Psych support?
Yeah, a lot of surrogacy agencies require psychological support for your surrogate. That can be just kind of appointment based per use. So it's a service that's available to the gestational carrier. They don't necessarily have to use it, but every time they do, it's going to rack up, a charge.
Oh, okay. Like psych support, just getting through the pregnancy and
Totally.
Obviously growing somebody else's child. And
Therapy.
I think that can take,
Yeah.
that can take a little mental gymnastics to kind of get through and comprehend. Hopefully there was a little bit of pre-text, like before they decided to go through everything, and they did a little bit of mental preparedness beforehand.
Of course, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just obviously when you're pregnant, you need psych support. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then also some surrogacy agencies will have a fee for just things like chiropractic massage, any kinds of body therapies to go through pregnancy. That can range anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 additional. Maternity clothing allowance is another thing I see a lot. That's $750 to $1,500, depending on how big the allowance is through the surrogacy agency. So yeah, those are some incidentals I listed. Everything we've covered up until this point are if things go well, like nothing goes wrong. There are quite a few things that can happen throughout the process, of course, that are going to add costs. So I have those under possible additional expenses. But I will say, just everything that we've covered so far, we're looking at, on the low end, at least $170,000 if you go through an agency, typically, on average.
Oh, okay.
With all of these things included.
Got it. That was fast math that you did.
I added it up earlier.
Nice.
And this is an average estimate, big round number, ballpark.
Yeah.
Ballpark figure.
Again, what we said before, if you choose to go independent, you're going to save on agency fees. If you find your own egg donor, depending on their compensation, could save a large chunk, and you could save a large chunk on insurance. So you could end up in the low six figures, low 100s, possibly.
If you're super, super lucky, which I thought was us.
Would be us. There are a few of these things that we didn't do correctly up to this point. But moving forward, we have taken off our rose-colored glasses and tried to be a little bit more
realistic.
Tried to be a little bit more discerning. I think just thoughtful than hurried.
Yeah,
I think sometimes we were just ready to go, ready to get it
now
done.
We're like, no, we can't do this. Like more decisive as far as this is what we can do and this is what we can't do, and that is that.
And that's that on that.
And that's that on that.
So did you want to go through additional expenses?
Yeah, real quick. I'll just list them. So it's called a hold fee. If your transfer date is it's just an extended period of time, like you don't want to have the baby for several months later and you already have your contract signed with your gestational carrier, then you're going to have to pay like some sort of money per month to hold them because they're just waiting.
And their life changes when they're pregnant. And
right.
They have to make certain decisions when they're pregnant as far as like travel and different things like that.
So that's can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month. Dropped cycle fee This is something that happens if, like, for any reason, the cycle of medications is dropped and they don't go in for the transfer. So they get paid for the pain and suffering of going through the medicational process. Medicational? Oh my God, that's not a word.
Medicational.
Another $500 to $1,000 typically. Mock cycle. This is a cycle that you do before the real cycle to see how the body reacts and goes through it. I think it's like a practice round.
Just to take the medications and make sure that like things
are working right. Could save you a lot of money if you're not sure if things are going to go right. It's usually doctor recommended or not. Like the IVF doctor will recommend it if they think that you need it.
That does seem like a lot of work.
Right. That can be another $500 to $1,000. Oh, okay. And if the IVF transfer is not successful, it's, I don't know, it's whatever the IVF clinic's going to charge you. It could be $5,000, it could be $7,000, it could be more.
Oh, for an additional cycle,
right?
Or for additional transfer.
Plus,
I know.
You have to pay for all the meds additional to that, and then the compensation again if you're, if there's any kind of fee to your medicational benefits. Yes, medicational benefits. All right, we talked about lost wages. That's another thing that you got to consider is if there's bed rest. Could be anywhere from $3,000 to $35,000 if uninsured, but you do have that option of getting that disability insurance, which could really save you here. Paying for support person lost wages. If their partner needs to come in for any invasive procedures, the birth, court dates, screenings, going for anything, then you may need to be able to pay back those lost wages that they have. Okay. There's also sometimes an additional allowance for physician-ordered bed rest. Can be anywhere to $500 to $3,500. Invasive procedure fee for any invasive procedure like aversion, amniocentesis, those uncomfortable medical things that can happen during pregnancy. Yeah, typically agencies will have a fee attached to that, especially if there's a super big complication like a fetal reduction or termination. Say your gestational carrier somehow miraculously gets pregnant with 8 babies and you have to fetally reduce in order to have a successful pregnancy and birth for the other 7, then you'll pay a fee for that. C-section fee, $2,500 to $4,000.
That makes sense. That's pretty invasive.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are a bunch of additional costs.
Yeah, I would want that at least sort of comfort or something, you know, if I had to be literally like cut open.
Obviously, this is going to change the cost a lot more, and it could really significantly increase, especially with those lost wages. So then you're looking at anywhere from $200,000 to $220,000.
Yeah, and we definitely know and have talked to people who were
well over
220 that. Plus. Yeah. And then hopefully you have good insurance for when baby is here, because obviously NICU stays are not cheap. So need to make sure that insurance is looking real nice if you're doing multiples.
And that's your own insurance.
That's it is your own birth. It is your own insurance. But just knowing what is in your plan, what is covered, what a NICU stay might look like, that's something that I know that we have really good insurance. Like I'm not worried when the kids are here. More worried about the insurance beforehand. But when we do get to that point, I do want to do like this is where our gestational carrier would be having the children, and then like the fees when they're born. Like I just want to like make sure that everything's good to go. So if they have a NICU stay, because that can be a huge bill. Yeah, huge bill. So you want good insurance when the babies arrive too. Right. Okay. Did anyone fall asleep?
No, okay. I
kind of fell asleep there for a half second.
Dang. Yeah. I would say that these numbers are kind of mind-boggling, and it drones on and on and on, and I don't apologize for that, because I do wish someone would have sat down with me at the beginning of this and talked through all of that. You know? Just in a way that we just did, to be like, no, this is the real.
I was going to say, this is definitely an episode for the people who are actually looking into doing surrogacy. I don't know if the general public is like willing to listen to all these freaking numbers, but there you go. If you're looking into it, those are the numbers. I think we covered most of the spots that you can like reduce the cost. Just be really smart about it. That will usually involve independent, knowing your surrogate, knowing your egg donor, and then trying to find an IVF clinic in a state with a lower cost of living.
Yeah, because the truth is that this expense is not accessible to most people.
Hell no.
Right?
No, not at all.
And yeah, I mean, you're a freaking dentist, and even for us, I'm like,
It's yeah.
So
it's definitely not an easy pill to swallow. That's for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, that's great. I am happy that we sat down and did this finally. Yeah, this whole first season of Who's Your Daddy podcast has been about starting your journey and hearing from others about how they started theirs. I don't know. Just looking back, I think that's our theme. We're starting.
Is this closing out the season?
No, it's not.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about?
But I mean, we're winding down. We're going to close out the season soon.
We're going to have to close out the season soon, I think. And then I think hopefully at the beginning of the next one, we're talking about like being pregnant. Like,
yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be weird. I feel like we've been talking about this forever. It's going to be weird to be pregnant.
Definitely.
As you're listening to this, Matthew will be in the air, 30,000 feet, I think.
On Thursday? Oh, yeah, on Thursday.
Yeah. We're both going to Honolulu Pride this weekend.
Woo!
Woo!
Shout out to Alaska Airlines.
Shout out to Alaska. And we are going with some friends.
Yes.
And it's going to be a blast.
Fellow content creator friends that we love so much.
Yeah. And they're going to stay in Portland for a night.
Yeah.
And we're going to feed them vegan food.
Ooh. So watch our stories on Instagram, see what's going on.
Yes.
We'll most likely have a YouTube video out about it later too.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
And we're just now editing, and I think we're going to start posting the videos from Japan.
Yeah, we've been
on our YouTube channel, so that's exciting.
I just we're so far behind on some stuff, but
totally.
I'm trying to make what I put out look good and nice.
Yeah,
that's my goal.
And he's done a really good job.
I try.
I watched a video that he edited recently from Chicago, and I was like, Michael, this is better than my editing.
I know. Wow.
I don't.
It's never better than yours.
Ever. Like, you don't understand.
But it takes forever. But it's like kind of fun to have like that product when you have it.
Yeah, especially when it looks that good. So
yeah,
good job, Michael.
We'll have some Japan videos out. We'll have some hopefully a day in the life, just week in the life, normal stuff.
This is one of our longer episodes. I'm closing it out.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for listening. And
Matthew's like, I'm sick of talking to you on this couch.
Oh, I think people are sick of listening to us at this point. I mean, I would be. You get me on a call with the accountant, and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, Matthew's
after
like,
5
okay,
minutes.
Michael, can you handle this yourself? Cool. Bye.
So thank you all so much for listening.
Until next time.
Wait, really? I was going to say leave a review. Hold on. I'm not there yet. Give me a minute.
I was trying to close out.
I'm not there yet. Don't forget to leave us a review, a 5-star rating. But we appreciate each and every one of you. I don't think there's been any new ones since the last one.
It doesn't matter. We've hardly ever read a review.
Do a short one.
Oh, a short one?
Yeah.
Oh, cute and relevant. This super cute couple is sharing the most intimate moments of their journey together. I find their love beautiful and their content exceptional. Thank you, boys, for sharing your stories with us. Thanks, Big Josh 0897.
Thanks, Big Josh.
Aw.
That's really nice.
Yeah, these are some older reviews. We need some new ones, guys. We need some new reviews.
Let's get it.
Yes.
Appreciate each and every one of you that have stuck with us through these long months of waiting. And yeah, more to come soon.
More to come.
Great. Anything else?
Nope. Follow us on all the socials at Michael and Matt, TikTok, Michael and Matt 1, YouTube / It's Michael and Matt. And until next time, Daddy's out.